You ever sit down to watch a Disney animated film thinking you know exactly what you're going to get? And then somewhere around minute 15, you realize the movie is operating on a completely different emotional frequency than you expected? That was my experience the first time I saw Moana. I walked in assuming it would be another polished, visually stunning Disney adventure with a catchy soundtrack and a marketable sidekick. I walked out feeling like I'd just watched something surprisingly personal, almost spiritual in its storytelling. So today, we're talking about Moana, the 2016 animated feature from Walt Disney Animation Studios, directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, the same duo behind The Little Mermaid and Aladdin. And that legacy matters, because you can feel decades of Disney musical storytelling in the bones of this movie. But there's also something distinctly modern beating inside it. Before we even get into the story itself, I want to talk about the trailer. Because the trailer for Moana did something very clever, almost strategic in hindsight. It didn't sell the movie as a princess romance. It didn't center a love interest. It didn't even lean heavily into traditional fairy tale imagery. Instead, it leaned into scale, the ocean, the horizon, the sense of ancient myth. The very first teaser focused heavily on Maui, voiced by Dwayne Johnson, which, at the time, made total sense from a marketing standpoint. Johnson was in the middle of cementing himself as one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. Putting his voice front and center wasn't just creative, it was business. The marketing framed Maui as this larger-than-life demigod with swagger and ego and comic timing. That hook pulled in older audiences who might not normally rush to an animated musical. But when the full trailer dropped, that's when the tone shifted. Suddenly, we weren't just watching a comedy about a tattooed demigod with a magical fishhook. We were seeing Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, standing on a cliff staring at the ocean like it was calling her by name. And that's when you realize the emotional center of this film isn't spectacle, it's longing. The trailer uses "How Far I'll Go," written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, in a way that feels almost defiant. Not loud, not explosive, but restless. The way Moana sings about the horizon line where the sky meets the sea, it isn't about rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It's about identity. She doesn't want to leave because she hates her home. She wants to leave because something inside her won't stay quiet. And that's such a subtle but powerful shift in Disney storytelling. If you look at the studio's earlier princess narratives, Ariel wanting to escape her underwater world, Jasmine feeling trapped in palace walls, there's often an element of restriction imposed externally. With Moana, the tension is internal. Her island isn't evil. Her father isn't a tyrant. There's love there, protection, community. But there's also fear. And fear becomes the quiet antagonist long before any lava monster appears on screen. The trailer also carefully avoided revealing the full arc of Te Kā, which I appreciated. It teased danger without spoiling transformation. That restraint is rare in modern marketing, where studios often reveal entire third acts just to spike opening weekend numbers. Here, Disney trusted atmosphere over plot exposition. Visually, the trailer flexed hard. The water animation alone deserved its own spotlight. The ocean doesn't just move, it performs, it reacts. It behaves like a character with curiosity and humor. And that wasn't accidental. The animation team reportedly spent years developing new technology to make water expressive without turning it into cartoon slapstick. The ocean in Moana feels ancient and playful at the same time. And then there's that shot, you know the one, where Moana stands on the canoe at sunset, sail catching golden light, vast open sea ahead of her. That image told you everything about the movie's ambition. This wasn't going to be a small, contained story. This was myth-making. But what really impressed me, looking back at the marketing cycle, was how carefully Disney positioned this film culturally. They consulted extensively with Pacific Islander historians and cultural experts to ensure authenticity. The Oceanic Story Trust was formed specifically to guide the production. That level of collaboration wasn't just PR polish. You can feel it in the texture of the film, in the tattoos, the navigation traditions, the respect for Polynesian mythology. The trailer hinted at that depth without turning it into a documentary. It balanced entertainment and heritage in a way that felt intentional rather than performative. And I remember sitting in the theater opening weekend thinking, okay, this could either be visually stunning but emotionally shallow, Or it could surprise me. Because Disney musicals live and die by emotional credibility. You can't just throw in a big anthem and expect audiences to connect. The character's desire has to feel real. The trailer made a promise. It promised a story about calling, about heritage, about stepping into something larger than yourself. And it promised humor too. That chicken Hei stumbling around in chaos, Maui arguing with his own animated tattoos, moments that signaled levity so the mythology wouldn't feel heavy. What it didn't promise was romance. And that absence was almost radical in the Disney ecosystem. No prince tease, no meet cute, no slow dance montage glimpses. Just a girl, the sea, and a question. Who am I meant to be? That's bold. And maybe that's why Moana resonated across generations. Kids saw adventure, parents saw self-discovery, cultural communities saw representation handled with care. Industry observers saw Disney recalibrating its formula in a post-Frozen landscape, where female-led narratives were evolving beyond fairy tale courtship. The trailer, in hindsight, feels like a thesis statement. Not loud, not desperate, confident. It trusted that audiences would lean into myth again. It trusted that sincerity still had market value. And it trusted that a teenage girl with no love interest and no royal ball could carry a blockbuster. That's a gamble. A smart one. And the fascinating thing is, once you sit with the film itself, you realize the trailer only scratched the surface of what the story was actually doing under the hood. From the very first frame, Moana establishes a rhythm that feels almost ritualistic. It opens with a lush, sun-drenched island, Motunui, and immediately you're struck by how alive the world feels. This isn't just animation for the sake of prettiness. Every leaf, wave, and cloud carries purpose. The introduction begins with the origin myth, the goddess Te Fiti creating islands, Maui stealing her heart, and the ensuing imbalance that will drive the story. Even in these opening minutes, the filmmakers signal the stakes. The theft of Te Fiti's heart is not just an act of hubris, it's the catalyst for ecological and spiritual consequences. It's a story about restoration, about balance, and it subtly frames the narrative around responsibility and courage. The next shift moves to Moana herself, as a child, and it's here that the emotional tether is forged. Disney often excels at showing a young protagonist's formative experiences, but what's striking here is the layered characterization. Young Moana isn't just adventurous, she's inquisitive and deeply intuitive. She has a connection with the ocean that feels organic, almost mystical. Unlike other Disney heroes who might treat magic as a spectacle, Moana interacts with it naturally. When the ocean chooses her as the one to restore the heart of Te Fiti, it's not a plot device handed down by a narrator. It's a subtle moment of acknowledgement that she is intrinsically aligned with the natural order of the world. Her early life is also dominated by her father, Chief Tui, voiced by Tamura Morrison, whose love and concern are palpable. He embodies a generational tension, protective yet restrictive. Unlike archetypal Disney parental figures, Tui's insistence that Moana stay on the island is rooted in trauma and lived experience. He survived storms, seen lives lost at sea, and fears the unknown. The filmmakers deliberately contrast his caution with Moana's restless spirit, creating an internal conflict that drives the narrative. The story escalates when Motunui starts to suffer from ecological collapse. Fish populations decline, crops fail, and an ominous darkness spreads across the ocean. These environmental cues aren't just background decoration. They symbolize the disruption caused by Maui's theft and foreshadow the broader journey Moana must undertake. Her mother, Sina, voiced by Nicole Scherzinger, represents stability and love, offering support while simultaneously honoring Tui's caution. The parental dynamic is rich with tension and warmth, and it establishes why Moana's decision to leave the island is emotionally charged, not just adventurous. When Moana finally decides to take the canoe and venture beyond the reef, it's a culmination of internal and external pressures. This is where the narrative pivots from personal longing to epic journey. She is met with immediate challenges, navigating the open sea, confronting storms, and surviving isolation, which Disney handles with a visual and emotional authenticity that elevates the standard adventure trope. Unlike previous Disney voyages where obstacles often feel episodic, Moana's journey is continuous and cumulative. Each challenge compounds her development, forcing her to adapt, problem solve, and recognize her own strengths. Enter Maui, the demigod, who provides both comic relief and narrative tension. His introduction is deliberate, flamboyant, brash, and full of self-assurance, a sharp contrast to Moana's humility and moral clarity. Their dynamic evolves from reluctant partnership to genuine mutual respect, and the story treats this evolution with nuance. Maui isn't just a sidekick or obstacle, he's a mirror to Moana. His confidence and ego show what she could become if power were pursued selfishly, while his vulnerabilities expose the limits of strength without purpose. The plot introduces the motif of identity repeatedly. Tattoos on Maui's body animate and narrate his past exploits, offering both exposition and character depth. This creative choice isn't merely stylistic, it externalizes his inner story, making his history accessible to audiences without relying on clunky dialogue. Simultaneously, it serves as a storytelling bridge, linking human myth to visual spectacle. A crucial turning point comes when Moana and Maui confront the Kakamora, the coconut-armored pirates, a sequence that exemplifies Disney's growing commitment to action-driven animation. The scene is chaotic yet readable, balancing humor, peril, and ingenuity. It's not just spectacle, it demonstrates Moana's growth in real time. She begins to command her environment, make strategic decisions, and emerge as a leader rather than a passive traveler. The stakes escalate, and the audience is drawn into a narrative rhythm where each success and failure tangibly affects her trajectory. Another narrative layer is introduced through the motif of courage, as relational rather than solitary. Moana doesn't just rely on her physical skill or intuition. She leverages empathy, listening, and understanding. Her ability to see Maui not as an adversary but as a partner represents a deeper thematic exploration of leadership and community. The story repeatedly emphasizes that restoring balance requires collaboration, reflection, and humility, themes that resonate far beyond the animated screen. Maui's initial reluctance is compounded by his personal backstory. The film subtly weaves in his insecurities, abandonment by human parents, societal expectations, and divine pressure, which inform his brash exterior. This layering is one of the movie's strongest narrative moves. By providing backstory not as exposition dumps, but through expressive dialogue, visual cues, and humor, the writers maintain narrative momentum while deepening emotional engagement. The sequence on Te Fiti's lava island, Te Kā, operates as both climax and crucible. The filmmakers take care to avoid turning it into a simple good versus evil battle. Te Kā's anger is environmental and personal, born from the theft of her heart. This transforms the conflict into something morally complex. Moana's challenge isn't just survival or victory, it's understanding, empathy, and restoration. Her realization that Te Kā is actually Te Fiti corrupted rather than a purely evil force exemplifies the film's nuanced moral architecture. In parallel, Moana's internal journey mirrors her external voyage. The courage she displays is intertwined with self-discovery. Her singing, particularly "How Far I'll Go," serves as both literal and metaphorical propulsion. Disney musical numbers here transcend entertainment. They function as narrative exposition, emotional calibration, and thematic reinforcement. Lin-Manuel Miranda's composition captures longing, determination, and clarity simultaneously, providing audiences an intimate connection to Moana's internal state. By the midpoint, Moana is no longer simply a curious girl exploring beyond her reef. She has become a navigator, a problem solver, and a moral agent. Her choices now carry consequences beyond herself. The health of her island, the restoration of balance to the world, and the fate of Maui as a morally complex figure. The narrative stakes, therefore, evolve from personal curiosity to epic responsibility, bridging the intimate with the mythic in a way few animated films manage. The first part of the story establishes key thematic pillars: identity, courage, empathy, responsibility, and leadership. It's a journey not just across the ocean, but across the self. And the writing ensures that every sequence, from Moana's interactions with her family to her challenges with Maui and the natural world, reinforces these pillars, building momentum toward the transformative arc that will unfold in the second half. The pacing, notably, is deliberate. Disney allows moments of quiet reflection to exist alongside spectacle. For instance, small gestures like Moana adjusting her sail, observing stars, or hesitating before confronting danger are given cinematic space. These moments prevent the narrative from collapsing into pure adventure tropes and emphasize her humanity. The audience isn't just watching an animated character, they're experiencing a coming-of-age story with stakes that feel authentic and emotionally resonant. By the end of this first section, Moana has left Motunui, formed a tenuous alliance with Maui, and survived initial trials that prove her resilience. But more importantly, the narrative has prepared us for the second phase, the deeper confrontation with legacy, power, and moral responsibility. This is where the story moves from establishing stakes to testing them against both external and internal forces, setting up a trajectory that promises complexity, spectacle, and emotional payoff. Her journey is emblematic of Disney's evolving storytelling approach, one where myth, culture, and personal growth are interwoven rather than separate narrative threads. And even in this early segment, you can see the filmmaker's dedication to authenticity, both visually and thematically, crafting a tale that resonates on multiple levels, from children captivated by adventure to adults appreciating moral and emotional nuance. This is where the first act closes, not with victory, not with resolution, but with a quiet acknowledgement. Moana's adventure has begun. The ocean is vast, and the challenges ahead are as much about self-understanding as they are about restoring a stolen heart. Don't write any word or permission at the end of each chapter. Picking up from the first act, Moana's journey transforms from tentative exploration into full-fledged heroism. After surviving the initial trials at sea and forming an uneasy alliance with Maui, the narrative begins to interrogate themes of legacy, responsibility, and self-belief in increasingly sophisticated ways. What's fascinating about this segment of Moana is how the filmmakers layer personal stakes over mythic stakes without ever feeling forced. The ocean, ever present, is no longer just a backdrop. It becomes a collaborator, a teacher, and occasionally, a playful antagonist, pushing Moana to confront fear and uncertainty in ways that are both cinematic and deeply symbolic. Once Maui reluctantly agrees to help Moana, their partnership becomes the engine driving the middle of the story. Unlike typical Disney duos, the dynamic is not immediately harmonious. Maui's hubris, he's a demigod after all, clashes with Moana's humility and moral clarity. There's a tension between power and responsibility that courses through their interactions. Maui's humor and overconfidence provide comic relief, but also subtly expose his insecurities. He's larger than life, yet his narrative arc is about reconciling past mistakes, learning humility, and ultimately understanding that strength without purpose is hollow. The tattoo sequences on Maui's body cleverly visualize his internal journey, his victories, failures, and self-reflections literally animated on his skin. It's storytelling at a meta level, blending visual spectacle with character development. The duo faces a series of escalating challenges, starting with the Kakamora, the coconut-armored pirates. This sequence is not just a highlight reel of action, it demonstrates Moana's emerging leadership. She assesses risks, improvises solutions, and exhibits strategic thinking. The Kakamora aren't just antagonists for spectacle's sake. They force Moana to balance courage with caution, creativity with decisiveness. Maui, despite his immense strength, is often reckless, emphasizing that physical prowess alone is insufficient to navigate the world. Here, the story repeatedly underscores its central thesis. True heroism requires self-awareness, collaboration, and ethical judgment. After overcoming the Kakamora, the plot intensifies as Moana and Maui confront deeper psychological and spiritual challenges. The film skillfully blurs the line between external obstacles and internal conflicts. For example, Maui's reluctance to restore Te Fiti's heart reflects his fear of failure and inadequacy. Moana's own insecurities about leaving her family, disappointing her people, or misreading the ocean's guidance mirror these challenges. In this sense, every external conflict functions as a metaphorical test of character. The writers cleverly ensure that audience investment is rooted in emotional stakes, not just visual spectacle. The narrative continues to emphasize Moana's relationship with her heritage. Her connection to the ocean is emblematic of cultural continuity, responsibility to ancestors, and the moral imperative to restore balance. The filmmakers consulted with Pacific Islander historians and cultural experts to ground these elements authentically. This cultural richness is not superficial. It informs every aspect of Moana's decision-making. For instance, navigation using the stars, understanding ocean currents, and interpreting environmental cues are portrayed with respect and accuracy, lending the story both educational and emotional weight. As the journey progresses, the tension between Moana and Maui evolves into mutual respect. Maui begins to confront his past mistakes, particularly the theft of Te Fiti's heart. Through dialogue and action, he comes to realize that his ego has caused widespread harm, and that redemption is only possible through collaboration and humility. This is an unusually sophisticated emotional arc for a supporting character in an animated adventure. By the same token, Moana learns that leadership is not merely about courage or strength, but about empathy, adaptability, and decisiveness under pressure. The journey toward Te Fiti's island is marked by a series of symbolic encounters. Each challenge serves as a mirror, reflecting Moana's inner growth. The ocean tests her courage, her resolve, and her moral compass, while Maui's presence challenges her patience, negotiation skills, and ability to lead by example rather than by coercion. These layered conflicts prevent the story from collapsing into a conventional quest for an object narrative. Instead, the film becomes a meditation on personal and communal responsibility, intertwined with mythological adventure. When Moana and Maui reach the vicinity of Te Fiti, the narrative tension peaks. The presence of Te Kā, the lava monster, transforms the story into a sophisticated moral puzzle. Te Kā is not evil in the traditional sense. Her wrath is the consequence of stolen balance and corrupted power. This distinction is crucial. The film subverts typical monster versus hero tropes by presenting antagonism as a symptom of imbalance rather than inherent malevolence. Moana's approach, therefore, cannot rely on brute force. It requires insight, courage, and emotional intelligence. The film's treatment of Te Kā emphasizes its thematic depth. Through visual storytelling, the contrast of fire, shadow, and ash against Moana's vibrant presence, the filmmakers communicate the idea that restoration and understanding are more potent than destruction. Moana's strategy is guided by empathy and cultural insight. She recognizes that confronting Te Kā with aggression would perpetuate harm, whereas understanding and restoring what was lost can heal both the external and internal worlds. This middle portion of the story also solidifies Moana's transformation from an inquisitive child into a mature leader. She navigates moral ambiguity, strategizes under pressure, and synthesizes lessons from both her heritage and personal experiences. Her interactions with Maui underscore her growth. She can lead without dominating, persuade without coercing, and inspire without relying on brute force or intimidation. These qualities resonate strongly because they reflect real-world leadership dynamics, even in the context of a mythic adventure. Musical sequences continue to function as narrative engines. Shiny, Maui's solo number, is a comic yet psychologically insightful scene. While it entertains, it also reveals Maui's ego, insecurity, and desire for recognition. Conversely, Moana's moments of song, particularly when she communicates with the ocean, serve as both exposition and emotional articulation. The music is tightly woven into the narrative fabric, enhancing story progression without feeling like an interruption. Lin-Manuel Miranda's compositions are meticulously aligned with character development and plot structure. By the end of this second segment, Moana has demonstrated not only courage, but adaptability and moral clarity. She has moved beyond simple rebellion against parental constraints or curiosity-driven adventure. Her decisions now carry weighty consequences for both herself and the world she inhabits. Maui, once brash and self-centered, begins to show vulnerability, setting the stage for eventual redemption. The narrative tension now pivots toward the climactic challenge, confronting Te Kā and restoring the stolen heart. Throughout this section, the filmmakers maintain a remarkable balance between spectacle and emotional resonance. High-octane action sequences, environmental challenges, and mythological battles are interspersed with intimate character moments, a child's longing, a mentor's regret, or a hero's self-doubt. This interplay ensures the audience remains deeply invested in both narrative and character development. By the time the next act begins, Moana has become a fully realized protagonist, equipped with the skills, insight, and ethical framework necessary to resolve the story's central conflict. Don't write any word or permission at the end of each chapter. The final segment of Moana's journey is where all the thematic threads, identity, courage, empathy, and leadership, converge into a powerful climax. Having crossed vast oceans, survived relentless storms, and forged a complex partnership with Maui, Moana arrives at the heart of the conflict, Te Fiti's domain, now dominated by the fearsome Te Kā. The stakes are no longer abstract, the ecosystem is collapsing, Maui's confidence is faltering, and Moana herself must confront the ultimate test of her courage, wisdom, and self-belief. Unlike many animated films, the climax is not resolved through simple confrontation. The filmmakers are meticulous in reinforcing that understanding and restoration, rather than brute force, are the keys to resolution. Moana's approach to Te Kā is deliberately measured. She navigates both the literal and symbolic obstacles in a way that feels earned. Every decision she makes, when to advance, when to wait, how to communicate with Maui and the environment, reflects the growth she has undergone since leaving Motunui. The tension is heightened not through artificial spectacle alone, but through the interplay of her internal struggle and the external chaos of lava, fire, and shadow. Each beat reinforces the narrative's investment in emotional logic over arbitrary danger. At this juncture, Maui's redemption arc reaches its own resolution. He comes to understand that power without responsibility is hollow, and that his previous ego-driven actions caused real harm. The sequence where he regains his confidence, not through aggression, but through collaboration and humility, mirrors the broader thematic message. Heroism is relational, not solitary. Their partnership evolves into genuine mutual respect. Moana no longer relies on him as a crutch, and Maui no longer dominates the narrative with bravado. Together, they create a synergy that allows the story to reach its emotional and thematic zenith. The confrontation with Te Kā is choreographed with a remarkable sense of rhythm and symbolism. Moana recognizes that the lava monster is not evil, but a being corrupted by loss. This realization transforms the narrative climax into a lesson about perception, empathy, and the restorative power of understanding. Her bold decision to return to Te Fiti's heart is not just the plot resolution, it is the culmination of her journey from self-discovery to leadership, from curiosity to wisdom. Every visual cue, the transformation of Te Kā back into Te Fiti, the return of life to the islands, the oceans rejoicing, is carefully calibrated to convey thematic and emotional resolutions simultaneously. The denouement is equally thoughtful. Moana returns to Motunui, but she is fundamentally changed. Her growth is internal as much as it is external. She has proven herself as a leader, capable of balancing courage with empathy, decisiveness with understanding, and ambition with responsibility. The island itself, rejuvenated by the restoration of Te Fiti's heart, mirrors Moana's transformation, emphasizing the narrative's motif of harmony between humanity and nature. The final sequences emphasize Moana's integration into her community with renewed perspective. She shares her knowledge of navigation and exploration with her people, signaling a future in which curiosity and courage are celebrated rather than suppressed. Disney's storytelling here is notable for giving closure without resorting to formulaic fairy tale endings. There is no romantic subplot, no dependency on external validation, and no artificial contrivances to reward the protagonist. Instead, the reward is authentic: mastery of self, restored balance, and a legacy of leadership that respects both tradition and innovation. Even the subtle elements, like the return of smaller motifs, the ocean's playful guidance, the birds signaling direction, or Maui's humor at just the right moments, reinforce continuity and thematic resonance. The film never loses sight of its core principles: identity, courage, empathy, and responsibility. Each visual, musical, and narrative choice is intentional, contributing to a story that feels cohesive, emotionally satisfying, and intellectually engaging. Musically, the resolution is accompanied by thematic reprises. How Far I'll Go emerges not as a lament, but as a triumphant reflection, emphasizing Moana's completed arc. The song's evolution mirrors her journey, transitioning from longing and questioning to confidence and self-affirmation. Miranda's songwriting is integral to this arc, allowing the narrative to breathe and providing an emotional lens through which audiences can measure character growth. The secondary characters also find resolution in ways that feel earned rather than perfunctory. Maui embraces his role as an ally and protector, without overshadowing Moana. Heihei remains a source of comic relief without derailing narrative stakes, and the Motunui community welcomes Moana back with acknowledgement of her growth. The interplay between individual and communal arcs underscores Disney's continued commitment to multi-layered storytelling that resonates across age groups and cultural contexts. The final visual tableau, Moana standing at the bow of her canoe, horizon wide and open, encapsulates the film's central message. The journey of self-discovery, responsibility, and courage is ongoing. It's both an ending and an invitation, suggesting that heroism is a continuous process, guided by curiosity, empathy, and ethical discernment. The film closes on a note of reflection and empowerment rather than finality, leaving audiences with a sense of possibility and inspiration. What makes the story of Moana stand out in Disney's canon is this meticulous layering of plot, character, culture, and thematic resonance. It's simultaneously an epic adventure, a coming-of-age tale, a meditation on leadership, and a celebration of cultural heritage. There's a rare sophistication in how challenges are framed, not as obstacles to spectacle, but as opportunities for character and moral development. Even the comedic elements are purpose-driven, supporting emotional beats rather than undercutting them. By the conclusion of the film, Moana embodies the qualities Disney has increasingly sought to highlight in its protagonists: resilience, insight, empathy, and moral courage. The journey has been grueling, filled with challenges both external and internal, yet it feels authentic, earned, and deeply human. The narrative arc demonstrates that heroism isn't about domination or confrontation. It's about understanding, restoring balance, and stepping into one's full potential while uplifting others along the way. Through all these narrative layers, Moana achieves something rare. It tells a story that is entertaining, emotionally intelligent, culturally respectful, and universally resonant. From the opening mythic prologue to the final triumphant return, the film operates on multiple levels simultaneously, rewarding both casual viewers and those who engage with its deeper thematic undercurrents. Its sophistication lies in its restraint. No subplot is extraneous, no action sequence exists without purpose, and every visual and musical choice reinforces character and theme. In sum, the complete story of Moana is more than a quest for a stolen heart. It is a meditation on identity, responsibility, courage, and leadership. It is a journey across the sea and within oneself, a narrative where myth, culture, and personal growth converge to produce a story that is intellectually, emotionally, and visually satisfying. By the end, audiences are not just entertained, they are inspired, challenged, and reminded that heroism is defined by integrity, insight, and empathy. The tale closes not with a simplistic resolution, but with an open horizon, both literally and metaphorically, signaling that Moana's adventure, like the pursuit of self-knowledge, is ongoing. Don't write any word or permission at the end of each chapter. Moana officially hit theaters on November 23, 2016, strategically timed for the Thanksgiving weekend in the United States. This release window was a calculated move by Walt Disney Animation Studios to capitalize on the family audience surge during the holiday season, a period that consistently generates strong box office returns for animated films. Disney had already proven that strategically releasing family-oriented films around this time could yield both critical and commercial success, with prior examples including Frozen in 2013. The timing of Moana also allowed it to extend its momentum into the Christmas and New Year holidays, ensuring maximum exposure when families are more likely to attend movies together. From an industry perspective, 2016 was a particularly competitive year for animation and family entertainment. Alongside Moana, the market saw releases from other major studios, including Finding Dory from Pixar, which had built enormous goodwill from Finding Nemo, and Sing from Illumination Entertainment, which catered to audiences with musical and comedic sensibilities. Against this backdrop, Disney needed a property that not only had strong brand recognition, but also differentiated itself thematically and visually. Moana accomplished this by highlighting a culture rarely represented in mainstream Western animation, Polynesian mythology, and by foregrounding a female protagonist whose journey was defined not by romance, but by personal and cultural responsibility. The production of Moana coincided with a broader trend in Hollywood, where animated features were becoming increasingly globalized in both appeal and thematic relevance. Disney's investment in authentic cultural consultation through the Oceanic Story Trust exemplifies a strategic awareness of audience diversification. They recognize that international markets, particularly in Asia and Oceania, were not only growing, but also more responsive to films that demonstrated cultural respect and sophistication. This attention to authenticity was not simply an artistic choice. It was a shrewd business strategy to enhance global box office potential and minimize cultural backlash, which has historically affected Western studios attempting to depict non-Western cultures. Financially, the film represented a significant investment, both in terms of budget and technological development. The animation team spent years refining oceanic simulations, creating water animation that behaves as a character itself, rather than as a passive backdrop. These technical advancements placed Moana at the forefront of visual innovation in 2016, ensuring that Disney could market it not only on the basis of story and music, but also as a visual spectacle. The attention to detail extended to character design, environmental accuracy, and cultural symbolism, making it competitive not just against other animations, but against live-action blockbusters that dominated that year's box office. The marketing strategy around Moana was multifaceted and reflective of industry trends at the time. Disney leveraged multiple channels, traditional television spots, viral social media campaigns, teaser trailers emphasizing both adventure and emotional resonance, and cross-promotional merchandising. Maui's voice actor, Dwayne Johnson, played a central role in marketing, tapping into his global star power. By combining celebrity endorsement with cultural storytelling and state-of-the-art animation, Disney maximized both domestic anticipation and international curiosity. In the context of Disney's own animated slate, Moana marked a subtle but important shift. Unlike earlier princess-centered properties, which were often adaptations of fairy tales or folklore familiar to Western audiences, Moana embraced mythology that was largely unfamiliar to most American viewers. This move was both bold and risky, as studios typically hedge against cultural unfamiliarity. However, the combination of universal themes, self-discovery, courage, and responsibility, with authentic cultural elements, created a narrative that was accessible globally while maintaining originality. This balance between risk and universality is indicative of Disney's strategic positioning in 2016, evolving its brand identity while maintaining proven formulas of musical and visual spectacle. From an industry trends perspective, Moana also benefited from the rising prominence of female-led narratives in mainstream Hollywood. By 2016, films like Frozen and Brave had demonstrated both commercial viability and critical acclaim for stories centered on strong female protagonists. Moana extended this trajectory by showcasing a lead whose motivation is not romantic, but deeply personal and culturally grounded. In doing so, the film contributed to a subtle redefinition of what constitutes a Disney heroine, someone who embodies leadership, courage, and moral agency without reliance on traditional tropes of romance or courtship. Another layer of industry context is the increasing importance of cross-platform engagement in 2016. Disney had a sophisticated ecosystem of merchandise, theme park tie-ins, streaming potential, and interactive media. Moana was positioned as a property that could expand beyond the theatrical release. For example, the soundtrack, including Lin-Manuel Miranda's original songs, was designed to generate streaming and album sales, while characters and motifs could be adapted into toys, games, and park attractions. This multi-platform strategy reflects a broader industry shift, where successful animated films serve not only as standalone entertainment, but also as engines of franchise potential and brand reinforcement. Critically, the film was also entering a landscape where representation and cultural sensitivity were increasingly scrutinized. The positive response to Disney's consultation with Pacific Islander communities positioned the studio favorably, contrasting with prior controversies in which cultural elements had been appropriated or misrepresented. By publicly emphasizing the involvement of cultural experts, Disney mitigated risk while signaling to critics and audiences alike that Moana sought authenticity, not superficial exoticism. This contributed to early critical buzz and anticipation, further supporting a strong box office launch. In summary, The release of Moana in late November 2016 was a masterclass in strategic timing, cultural positioning, and industry awareness. The film's entry into a competitive holiday market, alongside other major animated releases, required careful calibration of marketing, technological innovation, and thematic uniqueness. Its authentic portrayal of Polynesian culture, sophisticated musical compositions, and strong female protagonist aligned with contemporary industry trends, while simultaneously challenging conventional Disney formulas. From a business and cultural standpoint, Moana was not just a film release. It was a deliberate statement of Disney's evolving approach to animation, storytelling, and global audience engagement. Don't write any word or permission at the end of each chapter. One of the most striking elements of Moana is how deliberately and thoughtfully the filmmakers cast both the voice talent and the characters themselves. Disney clearly invested heavily in ensuring that the performances would feel authentic, emotionally resonant, and culturally appropriate, which is particularly notable in an era when animated films are often criticized for miscasting or using voices incongruent with the character's background. The lead, Moana herself, is voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, who was just 14 at the time of recording. Her youth was not a limitation. In fact, it became one of the film's greatest strengths. Cravalho's voice carries a natural combination of vulnerability, curiosity, and determination that makes Moana instantly relatable. Unlike more seasoned voice actors who might lean on theatricality, Cravalho's performance feels lived in, sincere, and genuinely adolescent in the best possible way. Chief Tui, Moana's father, is voiced by Temuera Morrison, whose presence imbues the character with gravitas. Tui's voice conveys authority, love, and a deep-seated fear of the unknown. Morrison manages to make the character protective without being authoritarian, which adds layers of complexity to the father-daughter dynamic. It's this nuanced performance that makes Moana's eventual decision to leave Motunui emotionally resonant. The audience understands that she's not rebelling against malice, but rather navigating the tension between love, duty, and self-discovery. Sina, Moana's mother, voiced by Nicole Scherzinger, provides a grounding emotional presence. Her role is smaller in terms of screen time, but pivotal in demonstrating familial support. Scherzinger's warmth and steady tone underscore the familial foundation that allows Moana to develop the confidence necessary to take on her epic journey. The parents' voices work in tandem to frame Motunui not as a prison, but as a loving home that nonetheless cannot contain Moana's destiny. Maui, the larger-than-life demigod, is voiced by Dwayne Johnson. His performance is a masterclass in balancing comedy, ego, vulnerability, and charm. Maui dominates scenes with his physical and vocal presence, but the film smartly balances this with visual humor, narrative beats, and Moana's own emerging agency. Johnson's voice performance ensures that Maui is compelling and dynamic without overshadowing Moana. And it's interesting to note how the character's humor and swagger are consistently tied to his insecurity, providing depth beyond the comedic surface. The supporting characters, though less central, are equally well cast and contribute meaningfully to the story. Hey, the chicken, provides comic relief without ever feeling intrusive. His silent antics are timed perfectly and play off Maui and Moana's personalities. Tamatoa, the flamboyant crab voiced by Jermaine Clement, adds an additional layer of satirical humor while serving as a minor antagonist. Clement's vocal performance is theatrical, dripping with personality, and it balances the more earnest emotional beats by injecting cleverness and absurdity in measured doses. The film's ensemble also includes several culturally important voices that lend authenticity to the Polynesian setting. While not all are household names, the inclusion of actors with Pacific Islander heritage ensures that the language, accents, and nuances of the characters feel grounded in reality. Disney's consultation with the Oceanic Story Trust also informed how these characters were conceived, ensuring that their speech patterns, body language, and even comedic timing felt true to the cultures being represented. This attention to detail elevates the film from mere fantasy to a respectful depiction of mythology and heritage. The dynamic between Moana and Maui is particularly notable because of how the voice performances drive character development. Cravalho's natural vulnerability contrasts with Johnson's larger-than-life bravado, and the resulting chemistry makes the narrative stakes feel tangible. Early scenes highlight tension, frustration, and skepticism, while later sequences allow for mutual respect, trust, and even humor that feels earned rather than forced. Their performances are a textbook example of how casting and vocal direction can create a multi-dimensional relationship within an animated context. Even minor characters are treated with care. The villagers of Motunui, the voyagers of the past, and environmental entities like the ocean itself are imbued with personality through voice direction, musical accompaniment, and animation synergy. For example, the ocean communicates with Moana in ways that are subtle yet expressive, acting almost like a character itself. This requires Cravalho to modulate her performance in ways that respond to an unseen partner, creating believable interactions that feel intuitive and spontaneous. Musical numbers provide another layer of character development. Cravalho's renditions of How Far I'll Go and other songs reveal internal thought processes, emotional growth, and ethical decision-making. Similarly, Johnson's performances in numbers like You're Welcome reveal Maui's insecurities beneath his showmanship. The music allows voice actors to explore tonal subtleties, pride, fear, humor, or reflection, in ways that dialogue alone could not. The casting choices reflect Disney's deliberate strategy of blending star power with authenticity. Johnson's global appeal helps market the film internationally, while Cravalho's relative anonymity allows audiences to focus on character immersion rather than celebrity. Morrison and Scherzinger provide emotional anchoring with performances that are culturally resonant and tonally precise. Supporting voices like Clement ensure a balance of humor, tension, and spectacle. Overall, the cast and characters of Moana represent a careful orchestration of performance, cultural authenticity, and narrative function. Each voice actor contributes to the thematic, emotional, and visual storytelling in ways that reinforce Disney's commitment to character-driven narratives. The synergy between voice, animation, and music creates a cohesive and emotionally resonant ensemble that supports both epic adventure and personal growth. Don't write any word or permission at the end of each chapter. At its heart, Moana is an exploration of self-discovery and the journey one takes to understand their place in the world, framed through the lens of Polynesian mythology. Without giving away key plot twists, the narrative revolves around a young girl from the island of Motunui who feels a profound connection to the ocean and a calling to explore beyond the horizon. This isn't a story defined by romance or traditional fairy tale elements. Instead, it's propelled by Moana's curiosity, courage, and sense of responsibility to her people and the world around her. The film begins by establishing Moana's deep ties to her island and community, illustrating both the love and the limitations that come with a life confined to a single place. Audiences see her grow up observing her father, the chief, as he works to maintain order and protect the island from external dangers. Through these early moments, the story subtly emphasizes themes of leadership, tradition, and the balance between caution and ambition. Moana's restlessness is not framed as dissatisfaction with her family or heritage, but rather as an innate drive to fulfill a larger purpose, a purpose she does not yet fully understand. As the story progresses, Moana is faced with a series of challenges that test her courage, intelligence, and moral judgment. The ocean itself functions as both guide and teacher, encouraging her to take risks, while also providing lessons in patience, observation, and resilience. The narrative cleverly positions natural forces and environmental obstacles not simply as external threats, but as catalysts for personal growth. Every trial Moana encounters is designed to push her into new territory, physically, emotionally, and ethically. The central journey involves Moana's partnership with a legendary demigod, whose motivations, personality, and past actions provide both conflict and comic relief. Their interactions highlight the evolving dynamics of mentorship, collaboration, and respect. The story explores how leadership is shaped not only by bravery and skill, but by empathy, insight, and the willingness to learn from others. This relationship provides a core through line that drives much of the middle portion of the film, creating opportunities for character development and thematic exploration. Adventure sequences are balanced with quieter, reflective moments that allow audiences to understand Moana's inner life. The film's pacing alternates between action and contemplation, ensuring that emotional beats land as effectively as the visual spectacle. Musical numbers are integrated seamlessly into the narrative, serving as windows into Moana's thoughts and motivations. Songs like how far I'll go, articulate longing, determination, and self-questioning in ways that dialogue alone could not, reinforcing the story's themes while advancing plot and character arcs simultaneously. Another defining aspect of the plot is the thematic focus on balance between humans and nature, past and present, ego and responsibility. Without revealing specific plot points, it's clear that Moana's journey is as much about internal discovery as it is about external adventure. Challenges she faces often have moral and ethical dimensions, encouraging reflection rather than simply celebrating physical prowess or triumph. This approach positions the story as a narrative that is thoughtful and layered, appealing to audiences on multiple levels. Children enjoy the adventure and humor, while adults can appreciate the subtler themes of responsibility, heritage, and self-actualization. The film also employs clever world-building. While it draws on Polynesian mythology and cultural references, it does so in a way that feels accessible to global audiences. The ocean, islands, and various fantastical creatures are integrated naturally into the story, enhancing immersion without overwhelming viewers with exposition. This balance between mythological authenticity and narrative clarity allows the film to resonate both as a culturally respectful piece and as an entertaining adventure story. Throughout the film, Moana's arc consistently emphasizes growth through challenges. She learns to navigate adversity, make ethically informed decisions, and trust her instincts. The story avoids conventional shortcuts to heroism, instead showing that true leadership involves self-awareness, humility, and resilience. Audiences are guided to recognize that Moana's successes are the result of thoughtful choices, courage, and empathy, qualities that are developed over time, rather than inherited or magically granted. The film's plot structure is deliberate, with each act building upon the last to escalate stakes and deepen character exploration. The first act establishes Moana's world, her relationships, and her internal conflict. The second act presents escalating external challenges and moral dilemmas that test her abilities and values. The final act resolves these conflicts in a way that is both visually spectacular and thematically satisfying, reinforcing the story's core messages without relying on cliché or formulaic resolutions. Humor, adventure, and emotional resonance are carefully interwoven. Comic sequences, often involving side characters or situational mishaps, serve to relieve tension while highlighting character traits and strengthening audience engagement. Action sequences are visually dynamic, yet narratively purposeful, reinforcing Moana's growth and her evolving understanding of the world and her own role within it. Meanwhile, quieter, introspective moments allow the audience to connect deeply with her internal journey, giving weight and emotional texture to the adventure. In essence, Moana's plot is about transformation. It charts the journey of a young girl becoming a leader, a decision-maker, and a morally grounded individual while navigating a world full of wonder, danger, and ethical complexity. The story is meticulously designed so that every challenge, relationship, and choice contributes meaningfully to her development. It's a narrative that celebrates curiosity, courage, empathy, and cultural respect, all while delivering a compelling, entertaining cinematic experience. Don't write any word or permission at the end of each chapter. Sitting down to analyze Moana, I have to start with the obvious. This is one of Disney's most visually arresting films in years. The animation, especially the rendering of water, clouds, and natural light, is nothing short of revolutionary. The ocean is not merely a background element. It's a character in its own right, responsive, playful, and almost sentient. It interacts with Moana in ways that feel alive, nudging her forward when she hesitates, creating tension when she missteps, and at times even communicating emotion. This is a level of detail that few animated films attempt, and it pays off in terms of immersion. Every ripple, reflection, and cresting wave adds to the storytelling, rather than simply providing visual spectacle. But visuals alone don't make a film exceptional, and Moana succeeds precisely because it marries artistry with substance. The character writing is tight, nuanced, and layered. Moana is compelling not because she's flawless or preternaturally gifted, but because she's relatable. She wrestles with doubt, navigates fear, and learns through trial and error. Her journey feels authentic, grounded in internal logic, and the stakes are emotionally resonant. The writers avoided the trap of turning her into a one-dimensional, perfect heroine, which allows audiences to engage with her growth in a meaningful way. Maui's character is equally well executed, serving as both comic foil and mentor figure. Dwayne Johnson's performance strikes a balance between bravado and vulnerability, making Maui entertaining without diminishing the film's emotional core. His arc, moving from self-centered demigod to a character capable of humility and collaboration, is handled with subtlety and humor. The interplay between Moana and Maui is one of the film's strongest assets, providing dynamic tension, comedy, and eventual emotional payoff. The narrative pacing is another standout. Disney gives the story room to breathe. The film avoids rushing the hero's journey, allowing each challenge to accumulate organically and contribute to Moana's growth. Moments of quiet reflection are interspersed with high-stakes adventure, striking a rhythm that keeps audiences engaged while emphasizing character development. Action sequences are visually compelling, yet always serve the story. Unlike some animated films where spectacle feels gratuitous, every battle, chase, or natural obstacle has narrative weight. Musically, Moana is exceptional. Lin-Manuel Miranda's songs are not just catchy, they advance character and theme. How Far I'll Go serves as a leitmotif for Moana's longing and determination, while Maui's You're Welcome blends humor with exposition, revealing character traits and backstory in a way that feels organic. The soundtrack enhances the emotional resonance of the film without ever overshadowing the narrative. Songs function as both entertainment and narrative vehicle, a hallmark of skilled musical storytelling. The film's cultural representation deserves special attention. Disney went beyond surface-level aesthetics, consulting the Oceanic Story Trust to ensure authenticity in Polynesian culture, mythology, and environmental knowledge. This effort isn't merely decorative, it shapes the narrative, informs character motivations, and enriches the world building. It also sets a new standard for how major studios approach culturally specific stories, balancing authenticity with accessibility. The result is a film that respects its source material while remaining engaging for global audiences. Humor is deftly integrated throughout the film. From Hei's absurd antics to Maui's self-aggrandizing moments, comic relief is woven into the narrative in ways that complement rather than detract from character or stakes. Even minor characters contribute meaningfully to the humor without undercutting tension. The balance of levity and seriousness ensures that the film appeals across age ranges, maintaining engagement for both younger viewers and adults. Critically, Moana also succeeds in subverting traditional Disney tropes. There's no romantic subplot, no prince or love interest to define the protagonist's journey. The story emphasizes self-actualization, leadership, and moral courage rather than romance, which is refreshing and timely in terms of evolving expectations for animated heroines. Moana is defined by her curiosity, bravery, and ability to navigate moral complexity, traits that resonate deeply and elevate the film beyond standard adventure fare. One area of note is the antagonistic force, Deka. Unlike traditional Disney villains, she is not evil for evil's sake. Her role challenges Moana to think critically, act ethically, and understand context before confronting danger. This approach adds a layer of sophistication to the story, presenting moral dilemmas and consequences that deepen the narrative. The climax is emotionally satisfying, not because of triumph alone, but because of insight, empathy, and restoration. The only minor critique might be that some supporting characters, while well cast, could have been explored more deeply. For instance, Maui's backstory is hinted at but not fully unpacked in the main narrative. However, given the film's runtime and narrative focus on Moana, these elements feel like logical prioritizations rather than oversights. The core narrative, Moana's journey, remains cohesive, compelling, and emotionally resonant. Overall, Moana is an impressive achievement in contemporary animation. It combines technical innovation, sophisticated storytelling, authentic cultural representation, memorable musical compositions, and emotionally rich character arcs. It's a film that operates successfully on multiple levels, visually stunning for casual viewers, narratively layered for adults, culturally informative for global audiences, and inspiring for young viewers looking for role models in leadership, courage, and self-discovery. One of the most fascinating aspects of Moana is the meticulous attention to detail embedded throughout the film, many of which casual viewers might not immediately notice. These details range from cultural nods to technical Easter eggs and subtle storytelling choices that reward repeat viewings. Disney clearly invested heavily in creating a layered, immersive experience that works on multiple levels, not just as an adventure tale, but as a celebration of Polynesian culture, environmental awareness, and narrative craftsmanship. Starting with the mythology, Te Fiti's design was informed by a combination of Hawaiian, Samoan, Tahitian, and Maori influences. The film's creators consulted the Oceanic Story Trust, a group of experts in Pacific Islander culture and history, to ensure that elements like Moana's voyage, navigation techniques, and spiritual relationships with the ocean were portrayed authentically. For example, Moana's knowledge of stars and ocean currents mirrors real Polynesian wayfinding methods that allowed islanders to traverse thousands of miles of open ocean long before modern instruments. These subtle inclusions make the narrative feel lived in and grounded, rather than a generic fantasy. The animation itself contains hidden storytelling cues. For instance, Maui's tattoos are not purely decorative. Each one is animated to reflect his inner thoughts and past experiences. They serve as a visual diary of his exploits, mistakes, and even his insecurities. In one scene, the miniature tattoo versions of Maui interact with him in humorous ways, but they also provide narrative exposition in a clever, non-intrusive manner. These small details reward attentive viewers and reflect the filmmaker's commitment to character-driven storytelling. Music also contains layers beyond its surface-level enjoyment. Many lyrics in songs like "How Far I'll Go" are directly tied to Moana's internal struggle and her evolving relationship with duty, curiosity, and courage. Miranda intentionally wrote phrases that could operate as both literal descriptions of her journey and metaphors for self-discovery. Even the placement of songs in the narrative isn't arbitrary. They punctuate key moments of emotional and plot development, giving the audience insight into Moana's mindset without relying solely on dialogue. The film also subtly addresses environmental themes. The darkness that spreads after Te Fiti's heart is stolen isn't just a plot device. It symbolizes ecological imbalance. Crops fail, fish disappear, and the sea itself seems unsettled. By linking narrative stakes to environmental consequences, the story communicates a deeper message about stewardship and balance. These layers are woven seamlessly into the adventure, demonstrating that the filmmakers were interested in embedding thoughtful commentary rather than didactic moralizing. There are numerous visual Easter eggs that attentive viewers can spot. For instance, the design of the ocean often hints at Moana's emotional state, with waves behaving differently depending on her confidence, fear, or determination. The Kakamora pirates, while humorous, feature intricate designs that reflect cultural motifs, such as traditional patterns carved into their coconut armor. Even small background elements, like bird behavior or the placement of flowers and plants, are meticulously choreographed to enhance immersion and reinforce thematic resonance. Voice acting details are similarly nuanced. Auliʻi Cravalho's performance contains micro-expressions in her vocal delivery that convey uncertainty, determination, and humor, often within the same line. Dwayne Johnson modulates Maui's overconfidence with subtle inflections that hint at vulnerability, especially in scenes where his ego is challenged or when he confronts past failures. These performances elevate the story from standard animation dialogue to nuanced characterization that rewards attentive listening. Additionally, Moana's wardrobe and physical gestures carry meaning. Her clothing is inspired by traditional Polynesian attire, yet functional for ocean travel, highlighting the film's blending of cultural authenticity and narrative practicality. Moana's body language evolves over the film. Early scenes show hesitancy and self-doubt in her posture, while later sequences depict confident, purposeful movement, reflecting her internal growth. The filmmakers also included clever meta-references and nods to Disney's history. Maui's boisterous personality and theatricality have echoes of prior larger-than-life Disney side characters, yet are distinctively grounded in Polynesian myth. Subtle design elements, like Te Fiti's heart-shaped motif and recurring spiral patterns, provide visual cohesion and thematic symbolism tied to creation, growth, and balance. These design choices create a rich tapestry that rewards multiple viewings, with new details often discovered each time. Even the comedic elements are purposeful. Hei's antics, while seemingly random, often parallel Moana's own mistakes or moments of indecision, acting as both levity and subtle narrative commentary. The humor is layered, appealing to children, while also offering adults a more ironic or satirical reading of events. Finally, production stories behind the film add depth to its creation. The team spent years studying Polynesian culture, traveling to islands to observe local practices, and engaging with historians, navigators, and cultural advisors. This level of commitment is rare for major studios and contributes to the film's authenticity. Animators developed new techniques to render the ocean realistically, making water behave dynamically and interactively, an innovation that has influenced subsequent animated films across the industry. In essence, Moana is a film that rewards curiosity. From visual symbolism and nuanced voice acting to cultural authenticity and environmental commentary, there are countless hidden details that enhance the viewing experience. These layers make it more than an animated adventure. They make it a rich, immersive story that blends spectacle with meaning, humor with humanity, and fantasy with authentic cultural resonance. When analyzing why Moana has blockbuster potential, it's essential to look beyond box office projections and focus on the elements that give it enduring appeal. First, the film's universal themes of courage, self-discovery, and leadership resonate across cultures and age groups. Unlike movies that target a single demographic, Moana blends adventure, humor, and emotional depth in ways that engage children, teenagers, and adults simultaneously. This multi-generational appeal is a hallmark of successful blockbusters, ensuring both strong opening weekends and sustained interest through repeat viewings and word-of-mouth promotion. The protagonist herself is a significant factor in blockbuster viability. Moana is a young, relatable heroine who embodies traits that audiences admire: curiosity, bravery, empathy, and moral clarity. She's not defined by romance or superficial traits. Instead, she's defined by her actions, her intelligence, and her willingness to take responsibility for the world around her. In an era when audiences increasingly seek strong, independent female leads, Moana fills a gap in mainstream cinema, offering a role model who inspires without resorting to formulaic tropes. This resonance with modern viewers amplifies the film's cultural and commercial appeal. Another key factor is the film's visual spectacle. The ocean, landscapes, and animation of natural elements are not just technically impressive, but emotionally immersive. Visual innovation has historically contributed to blockbuster status, as audiences are drawn to films that provide experiences beyond what they can witness in everyday life. The level of detail in water simulation, island environments, and fantastical elements positions Moana alongside other major visual tentpoles of the decade, making it a must-see in theaters for both family audiences and cinephiles interested in cutting-edge animation. Music plays a pivotal role in solidifying blockbuster potential. Lin-Manuel Miranda's contributions provide memorable, emotionally resonant songs that are catchy yet meaningful. Tracks like How Far I'll Go and You're Welcome are designed for repeated listening and can transcend the film, entering popular culture through streaming, covers, and live performances. This cross-platform resonance strengthens audience engagement and helps the film maintain visibility long after its theatrical release, a common characteristic of blockbuster films with lasting cultural impact. The story's mythology and world-building also enhance commercial viability. By drawing from Polynesian mythology and culture, the film introduces fresh settings and characters that differentiate it from other animated adventures. Global audiences are increasingly receptive to diverse stories, particularly those that explore unfamiliar cultures with authenticity. Moana taps into this trend while maintaining universal themes, creating both a unique narrative identity and broad accessibility, a combination that boosts both critical acclaim and box office potential. The voice cast adds another layer of draw. Auliʻi Cravalho's breakout performance brings freshness and authenticity, while Dwayne Johnson's star power attracts international attention. Supporting voices like Tamura Morrison and Jermaine Clement provide depth, ensuring that the ensemble feels robust and dynamic. Star-driven marketing, particularly leveraging Johnson's social media reach and fan base, helps generate pre-release buzz and increases the likelihood of strong opening weekend attendance, a key component in establishing blockbuster status. Marketing strategy also underpins the film's blockbuster potential. Disney's integrated approach, combining traditional advertising, social media campaigns, merchandise, and cross-promotional tie-ins ensures that Moana remains in public consciousness across multiple platforms. Targeted campaigns emphasize both spectacle and story depth, appealing to parents seeking meaningful family entertainment and younger audiences drawn to humor and adventure. Additionally, the film's merchandise potential, including toys, clothing, and interactive games, extends engagement beyond the theater, creating a feedback loop that supports sustained commercial success. Cultural relevance and timing further strengthen its potential. Released during the holiday season, the film captures a period of high family movie attendance. Moreover, societal interest in diverse representation and strong female leads positions Moana favorably within the contemporary media landscape. The film's narrative and thematic sophistication allows it to resonate beyond surface-level entertainment, encouraging discussion, analysis, and advocacy among viewers, all of which contribute to long-term visibility and brand longevity. Critically, the film's balance of humor, adventure, and emotional resonance enhances blockbuster viability. Audiences are offered a compelling narrative with high stakes, engaging action, and comedic relief, ensuring broad appeal. Importantly, the film does not rely on cheap gimmicks. Every element, from character development to visual design, is crafted with intention, creating a sense of cohesion that supports repeat viewings. Blockbusters often succeed because they offer layered experiences that reward audience investment, and Moana clearly operates on this principle. Finally, the film's cross-generational and cross-cultural accessibility makes it particularly suited for global box office success. Universal themes, combined with culturally rich storytelling and authentic design, ensure that audiences worldwide can relate to the narrative while appreciating its unique aesthetic. In an era where international box office earnings increasingly determine blockbuster status, this dual appeal is crucial. By offering both spectacle and substance, Moana positions itself as a film that can dominate domestically and resonate in overseas markets, meeting the critical criteria for true blockbuster status. In summary, Moana's potential as a blockbuster stems from its combination of visually stunning animation, emotionally complex characters, universal and culturally rich themes, memorable music, strategic marketing, and cross-generational appeal. It isn't just a visually captivating adventure. It's a story that engages audiences intellectually and emotionally, ensuring that it stands out in the crowded landscape of contemporary animated films. Disney's careful integration of all these elements positions Moana not only for strong box office performance, but for long-term cultural resonance, hallmark traits of any successful blockbuster. As we arrive at the conclusion of Moana, it's impossible not to reflect on the broader thematic resonance that carries the film from a simple adventure into something far more profound. The story closes not merely with the protagonist's victory over external obstacles, but with a nuanced understanding of leadership, responsibility, and self-realization. Disney's narrative choice to avoid a conventional, happily ever after, romance-centric ending is a deliberate statement. Heroism, courage, and legacy are measured by action, insight, and moral clarity, not by romantic resolution. This alone distinguishes Moana as a character for a modern generation, where the journey of self-discovery takes precedence over traditional fairy tale tropes. The final imagery of Moana standing at the bow of her canoe, looking toward an open horizon, serves as both a literal and metaphorical representation of possibility. The ocean, which has guided, tested, and nurtured her throughout the narrative, symbolizes both opportunity and responsibility. She has learned that true leadership is not about control, but about understanding the balance between one's ambitions and the needs of the community. The interplay between her personal growth and her connection to the natural world underlines one of the film's central messages. Harmony with the environment is inseparable from the evolution of character. The film's closing scenes also underscore a theme that runs subtly throughout the story: legacy. Moana returns to Motunui with more than just experience. She brings knowledge, courage, and a vision for the future. She teaches her community to embrace exploration and innovation while respecting tradition. In this way, the narrative emphasizes that heroism is relational and generational. It involves empowering others, fostering growth, and nurturing resilience in those who follow. This makes the story feel far more expansive than a personal adventure. It is a meditation on the ripple effect of courageous and ethical action. Musically, The ending is handled with equal care. The reprise of How Far I'll Go is not a mere echo of an earlier song. It's an evolved reflection of Moana's journey. The lyrics, intonation, and orchestration now convey confidence, self-awareness, and a profound understanding of her role in the world. The audience is reminded that transformation is not instant, but cumulative, built from challenges, insights, and the courage to face one's fears. This musical resolution reinforces the narrative arc and leaves viewers with a lasting emotional impression that resonates well beyond the final credits. The secondary characters also receive meaningful closure. Maui has evolved from an ego-driven demigod into a figure of humility and collaboration, demonstrating that personal growth is possible, even for those with immense power and prior mistakes. Heihei continues to serve as comic relief, but his presence also reminds viewers of the lighthearted, unpredictable nature of life. The villagers of Motunui return to their daily lives, but with a newfound openness to exploration and adaptability, reflecting the ripple effects of Moana's courageous example. Every character's evolution feels earned, enhancing the film's emotional authenticity. Another critical aspect of the outro is its cultural resonance. The film closes by reaffirming the importance of Polynesian heritage, knowledge, and myth. Through Moana's journey, audiences are invited to appreciate a culture that is often underrepresented in mainstream media, while also witnessing universal human experiences, curiosity, fear, courage, and the desire to contribute meaningfully to one's community. This balance of cultural specificity and universal appeal is a hallmark of Disney's best work, allowing Moana to transcend regional boundaries and connect with a global audience. Symbolism is woven throughout the finale. Te Fiti's restoration, the rejuvenated ocean, and the thriving islands collectively symbolize renewal, reconciliation, and the restoration of balance. These visual metaphors extend beyond narrative resolution. They reinforce the film's philosophical underpinnings about interconnectedness, environmental stewardship, and the cyclical nature of life. The story's conclusion is therefore intellectually satisfying as well as emotionally fulfilling, rewarding viewers who have engaged with the film's layered storytelling. In practical terms, the outro also sets the stage for potential expansion into franchise territory without compromising narrative integrity. The film's universe, rich with mythology, unexplored islands, and compelling characters, could support sequels, spin-offs, or even broader cross-platform storytelling. Yet even if no continuation were produced, the finale delivers a self-contained, fully realized narrative that feels complete, resonant, and memorable. This is a rare achievement in modern animation, where the pressure to seed franchises can sometimes overshadow thematic resolution. Ultimately, the ending of Moana emphasizes personal empowerment, ethical leadership, and cultural pride. The narrative demonstrates that true heroism is not a destination but a process, a journey shaped by introspection, courage, and meaningful action. It celebrates the balance between exploration and responsibility, tradition and innovation, individuality and community. By doing so, it positions the film as not just an entertaining animated adventure, but a work with lasting educational, cultural, and emotional value. The outro reinforces the idea that storytelling can be both entertaining and meaningful, engaging audiences on multiple levels while leaving them with a sense of inspiration and possibility. Moana's journey becomes a lens through which viewers can examine their own lives, how to navigate challenges, honor heritage, act ethically, and embrace the unknown with confidence. The film's conclusion is a call to action in its own subtle way, a reminder that courage, curiosity, and responsibility are qualities worth cultivating in both personal and communal life.